Hey, come here. You like pro wrestling? We got a little something for you. Two fans, 3,000 miles away. We each been watching for more than 30 years. Celebrate the art form, the action, the homoeroticism. We ain't rating matches. We ain't analyzing stories. We ain't experts. We just sit down, shut up, and mark out! What's up, everybody? It's Blade Daily coming at you with another edition of Sit Down, Shut Up, Mark Out, a pro wrestling podcast about pro wrestling. And speaking of pro wrestling, I am joined by Canada's greatest pro wrestling podcaster, Joshi G. Joshi, how you doing?
Good. I'm the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be. Remember that always. As long as I'm the best, that's all that matters. Okay, I'm gonna stop now. But I'm good. I'm really hyped about wrestling right now. We've got a lot of great stuff going on. AEW is always awesome. We've got the G1. We've got an ROH pay-per-view tonight. Great stuff, man. How about you?
Incredible. It's an incredible time in pro wrestling right now. I mean, I thought about what this weekend just alone looks like. And last night, I rewatched the Blood and Guts match. I watched Ring of Honor after that because I wanted to see this Queen Aminata and Red Velvet interview with Lexi Nair, which, by the way, Lexi Nair, you are fantastic. You're doing a great job, killing it. She actually pulled some minion shit on Queen Aminata and Red Velvet. Super good. Can't recommend that storyline enough. I'm so stoked for Death by Dishonor. By the time you are hearing this, it will be over. So we are not covering Death by Dishonor in this episode, but we will cover it next week. Joshi, there's so much going on. I think we should just jump into it because
Let's go.
First thing I want to say, Collision and Ring of Honor this week and Collision last Saturday looked awesome. I love this esports thing they're doing in Arlington, Texas. I'm all about it. I hope they keep finding venues like this because, one, it's kind of punk rock, like just to have a smaller venue and not give a shit about it. I fucking love it. You guys can't see it, but Joshi was just doing the Satan horns. And I completely agree. It's just kind of punk rock. I love the vibe. But the thing I got to say is without all those fucking glowy boards and the ramp and like all that shit that they usually have for a Dynamite or like WWE is also does a lot of, the picture quality is just way better. It looks like it's a better looking picture. Like I was watching Ring of Honor last night. Like I cannot fucking believe how good this looks. Can't say enough good things about this residency that they're doing at the Esports Center. I hope they do more of it because I had posted this on Threads last weekend. How cool would it be if AEW ran a residency in your town for like a month, you know?
Oh my God. It would be Disney World.
Yeah, it'd be like going to Disney World. Yeah, it'd be better. And I would go every week and try to bring new people every week, you know? It's a great way to expose people to a product. It's something that places like WWE don't do. And I think it's really a net positive all around for the company. And the only net negative from that show was the unfortunate injury of Sky Blue, who broke her ankle. Fucking sucks for her. I was really looking forward to seeing Sheeta and Sky Blue. Sheeta, we got a lot more to say about Sheeta coming up a little later on. But overall, just love the look of the show. Can't wait to see Death by Dishonor tonight. More residencies. Let's do more of this, please.
I completely agree. A lot more intimate. Plus, you want to differentiate Dynamite from Collision. And they did kind of look similar in a way.
So, they looked identical almost.
Yeah, like the colors were different, fine. But that was basically it, right? So this time, it felt like a completely different vibe. Obviously, it was a smaller venue, but that's fine. That's fine. We like smaller venues. They're, it's a completely different experience. Why not? So, like you, I give it an A. The only thing that I would improve is the audio, but that's fixable, and they'll sort it out.
Yeah, the audio, I think you have to be honest and just say it was kind of a fail, that first collision. That was bad. Like, guys, you got to chill out on the arena audio when you're on a backstage segment. The reverb was killing everybody, okay? It just didn't sound good. And they kind of figured it out like halfway through the episode, but can't do that. So anyway, Ring of Honor sounded great. So let's just hope that they continue sounding great. You know, I don't like getting into the business semantics of this too much, but what I read was that between this entire residency, they got a good enough deal to where if they sell 5,000 tickets across every show, they break even, or they more than break even. They turn a profit. So
that's good.
Over like 6 shows, 7 shows, they're going to sell 5,000 tickets. Like, who cares?
Yeah.
And they sold out their first show on that first collision. So very, very cool. Loved. I would say the highlight for me was probably Darby versus Beast Mordos.
That was so good. Holy
Beast
crap.
Mordos, as I posted on Threads, he is just a wrestler. He is not hiding under my bed when I go to sleep at night. He's not hiding in my closet. He can't hurt me. He's just a wrestler. He's not murdering Darby Allin on television, right? They're working together, aren't they?
They might appear in your nightmares tonight.
Stop. Get away, Beast Mordos.
Seriously, though, I want to see more of this guy. I was actually thinking about him a couple of weeks ago. Like, where is he? He's so freaking cool.
I wouldn't be surprised if he shows up on Death by Dishonor tonight. Like, he's signed. You know, he was signed. Black Taurus before he came to AEW. He had to get a new gimmick because the promotion owned Black Taurus. So they'll be giving that to somebody else. But good luck finding somebody who can pull it off the way this guy does.
Right.
Guy's a killer. He's absolutely amazing. Him and Darby had amazing chemistry with each other. We also saw the debut of Hologram, by the way, who debuted. They couldn't have set him up for success any better than with Gringo Loco. This man is the best base that there is in Lucha Libre. You know, if you guys aren't as familiar with Lucha Libre, a base is the guy who takes moves. For instance, Psychosis was Rey Mysterio's base. So he was the guy who took Rey's moves and made them look like $1 million. And man, did Gringo Loco help out Hologram. But I got to give it. Hologram is former AAA wrestler Aramis. And this guy looked amazing.
He did.
He was so crisp. Apparently, there's more to come with his gimmick as well. They have kind of this high-tech thing they want to do with this gimmick. I'm excited to see how it turns out. But, man, I'm excited to see this guy wrestle more. I want to see him in the ring with a lot of people. So,
well, I will tell you this. I am really curious about him now.
Me too.
So great job on his first match in AEW because I want to see more. And I'm really curious about this high-tech stuff. What does that mean? Too. Is he going to have like a bunch of robots?
Yeah.
Guide him to the ring?
I don't know.
What the hell?
And, you know, when I was seeing I had posted on Threads leading up to Collision, what I love about pro wrestling is when you take a big chance on something. I said it reminded me so much of Glacier because the Glacier promos went on forever. Okay. Like 3-4 months and then nothing would happen and then they'd start again. And like,
it's true.
And by the time you saw Glacier, it was like, okay, Mortal Kombat came out like years ago.
You're right.
Like, it was pretty disappointing by the time you actually saw Glacier. He had a rad entrance, but that was it.
That was all it was.
I had posted that the way they had gone double, triple down on Hologram reminded me a lot of Glacier, where it was like, this is either going to be very good or very bad. There's no in between. And that's what I love about pro wrestling. And even if it had been very bad, which it wasn't, it was very good. But even if it had been very bad, it would have been hilarious. You know what I mean? I would have just laughed my ass off and moved on, and it would have been part of the AEW lore, right? But no, they executed it very well.
iBlade Daily, before we continue, there is something that I need to say.
Please.
I made a mistake last week on our podcast. I need to apologize to Kazuchika Okada and to the guy holding the sign. I am deeply sorry. The sign actually said gmail@okada.com.
Yes.
And I said okada@gmail.com. I botched it.
It's hard. It's hard.
I am so sorry.
Because we're all used to having Gmail addresses.
Yes.
And it's hard to think of anything not being at gmail.com. But yes, the sign said Okada's email address is gmail at okada.com.
Please forgive me, please. I beg of you. I am so embarrassed.
Hey, we just gotta find more of those Okada-isms to keep propagating. Like I didn't see any at Blood and Guts this week. Nashville, that was the only thing you messed up, okay? But
what happened to the Okada section?
Yeah, what the fuck, guys? Maybe hey, there was a giant cage obstructing it. Let's just pretend there was a bunch of them that we didn't see.
I think that's what happened.
Yeah, we can lie to ourselves this week. Next week, we got to do better.
No excuses. Yes.
Speaking of Nashville, good God. Blood and Guts was bloody and gutsy. Holy shit.
Oh my God.
Nobody jumped off the top of the cage. Quite. I think a lot of good came from that match. I saw some kind of mixed takes about it even on Threads. There was one person who said, and he was very just stating his opinion that Blood and Guts feels like diminishing returns to them because it just happens every year for one reason or another. And this one felt like it had the least amount of story. And you know what? Fair. But
sure.
I'm going to say we talked about it last week on our show that this was the lowest stakes Blood and Guts that it felt like there had ever been. And somehow they managed to tell an incredible amount of story in this match. Everything is building up to All In, and everybody in this match has something going into All In, except Swerve. He's fighting Danielson, and that's just in this completely other realm, right? But everybody else has something going into Blood and Guts with each other in this match. To me, it was weird that FTR called out the Young Bucks on Collision this last weekend because I was like, what about the Acclaimed? And then somebody brought up, what about a ladder match with the Young Bucks, the Acclaimed, and FTR at All In? Pretty hard to argue with that. I had seen some people saying that the Acclaimed didn't belong in this match. Anthony Bowens clearly went into this match feeling like he had something to prove to these people because this motherfucker went wild in the Blood and Guts match. He stabbed Jack Perry in the head with a real pair of scissors many times, and then he opened those bitches and fucking stuck it in his mouth. It was pretty rough, okay? And obviously he's taking care of Jack on this spot like he's not really doing anything to him. But, like, the implication was gross. Hangman's entrance finally comes around. His music plays, which, by the way, the music really grew on me fast. I am loving this whole new Hangman reinvention. I am just loving it, okay? The music hits. Hangman doesn't come out. Swerve's music hits a few minutes later. Swerve comes out. And I thought this might be the case. Hangman doesn't care about this match. He doesn't care about helping the Elite. He cares about fucking up Swerve.
He's obsessed with Swerve.
He's obsessed with Swerve. He hits him from behind very brutally, I might add, with a chair in the back of the head. He tells him, what does he keep? Like, I'm going to burn your world to the ground. He keeps saying that. So apparently that's what he's going to do because he handcuffs Swerve to the cage on the outside. He holds the belt in his face. He says, you should never have had this. And he bashes Swerve in the face with it. And then Matthew Jackson.
Whoa, these are Christian boys. What's the matter with you?
Matthew Jackson gets on the mic and says, get your ass in here. We had a deal. A deal's a deal. We suspended you before. If you don't get in here, you're fired.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing that can get through to Hangman. And he finally gets inside the ring. Swerve's handcuffed on the outside before finally who should appear? Who should appear? But Jesus Christ himself, Jeff Jarrett, shows up. Billy Gunn shows up. The badass shows up. And Brandon Cutler tries to prevent Jeff Jarrett and Billy Gunn from getting to ringside. Brandon takes the guitar shot to the head. He took it very well, I might add. Jeff gets the lock picked. They cut through the fence to get Swerve into the cage. And then maybe one of the coolest spots I've ever seen in a Blood and Guts proceeds to take place. The Bucks always bring something really obscene into this match. You know, whether it's the spiked shoe or whether it's something else. This time they had been coming to the ring with cases and nobody knew what was in the cases. And it just so happened Swerve had a staple gun in his hand and he was threatening Hangman with it. When they opened the case of theirs and the Bucks and Okada and Jack Perry all of a sudden all have staple guns in their hands. They surround Swerve. Perry staples Swerve from behind. Then everybody starts stapling Swerve. And Swerve goes down in a heap. The crowd's booing. Everybody's pissed. Swerve starts laughing like a fucking maniac. And he had hid his face from the camera perfectly this entire time. And you gradually see that he is laughing his ass off. He stands up and these guys are all terrified of him. And one by one, he finds a very creative way to staple every single one of these motherfuckers. Joshi, tell everybody about the best moment of this match.
Oh my God. The best part was when Okada, I'm sorry, I can't stop laughing. It made me laugh for so long. So when he flips Swerve off, and Swerve staples his middle finger. That was the best part of the match. I just have to say, I Blade Daily, Swerve is my guy. Just seeing him get stapled like that, laugh like a freaking maniac, and then get up and staple all of them. Holy crap. This guy,
he's my favorite.
Is a warrior. Yes, he's my favorite too.
They're doing such a good job every time he's on screen of making him the dude. And yeah, it was badass. This whole thing. Swerve's not in the match very long. He doesn't do anything extremely crazy. Him and Hangman end up brawling out of the cage through the place where they had cut the cage open. Then they fall off the stage into this thing. They take each other out of the match. Everybody starts exiting the cage. The Young Bucks are out of the cage. The Acclaimed follow them out. They're beating the shit out of each other. Meanwhile, Okada, Mark Briscoe, Darby Allin, and Jack Perry are still brawling inside the ring. Bowens and Nick Jackson end up... So originally, the Bucks set up this 4-table like monstrosity on the outside. I am, at this point, starting to clench pretty hard, okay? Because something scary is going to happen. And oh boy, did it. Matt Jackson initially tries to have Bowens like pinned down so that Nick can jump on him. Max Caster liberates Bowens. Matt and Caster kind of get dragged off into this other direction. And Bowens follows Nick up this scaffolding. But Nick gets the better of Bowens. He bangs his head into the scaffolding a couple times, and Bowens falls backwards off it was a very smartly set up bump. Mm-hmm. Bowens drops through 4 tables from nearly the top of the cage. The Acclaimed set out to prove that they belonged in this match, and man, these guys proved it. They absolutely proved it. Anthony Bowens is the MVP of this match. He took a lot of crazy shit. I still believe in the Acclaim big time. They are definitely setting up a low-key Max Caster heel turn for down the road.
Darn you. Okay, that's what I was going to say.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So,
okay.
No, it's okay. No, it's okay. I'm glad you mentioned it, so I just wanted to continue. So what I found really interesting was that while Jack Perry is pretty much being tortured by Mark Briscoe and Darby Allin, so he's handcuffed to the cage inside the ring, you have freaking Matt Caster just standing around. Mm-hmm. He's not doing anything. You know, it's like, you can, dude, like, beat up Okada. Well, what are you doing? He's just walking around. So to me, that was a big red flag. So I definitely see him turning heel. I mean, if the match is happening at All In, I imagine it will. He's going to turn on Bowens. I see that happening. Plus the mustache. I mean, come on. You look any more like a scumbag. And I did like the way Team AEW won. You know, like, Darby Allin, man, how can you not love this guy?
So you have Mark Briscoe, who, you know, I feel bad calling any one person the MVP because Mark Briscoe got the fuck beat out of him in this match. Darby Allin got the shit beat out of him in this match. And Jack Perry got the living shit beat out of him in this match. Now, Mark Briscoe has a gimmicked chair. It says scapegoat on it, clearly, so they used the right chair. But good God, Jack Perry is basically the Raven of AEW at this point. They have him handcuffed up to the side of the cage, just like they did to Raven in ECW so long ago. And Mark Briscoe buries this chair over the top of his head. And they're trying to tell Jack Perry to quit. And Jack Perry won't quit. And they have handcuffed Matthew Jackson, good Christian boy, handcuffed him to the ropes so that he has to watch what they're doing to Jack Perry. Darby Allin finds a gas can, and he's already lit Jack Perry on fire once, okay? You know he's willing to do it, okay? So he pours gasoline all over Jack Perry and says, quit or I'm going to light your fucking ass on fire. And Jack Perry will not quit, okay? Matthew Jackson eventually quits on behalf of Jack Perry, basically, to keep him from being lit on fire. But before he quits, Darby makes him agree to give Darby a shot at Jack Perry, which we all knew, I think we saw coming, that Jack Perry and Darby was going to happen at Wembley. That match is now official. And Jack doesn't quit, and Matthew Jackson quits for him. Jack looks hard as fuck at the end of this match. Like, he wasn't going to give up. By the way, we forgot to even mention that fucking Mark Briscoe did a froggy bow onto Matthew Jackson through a table in between both rings. And Darby fucking jungle gyms his ass up to the top of the cage and does a fucking monkey bar fucking coffin drop on through the table
was epic.
To Jack Perry. It is insane.
We don't deserve Darby Allin, man. Holy crap. He is special.
All of that is to say, this very disjointed review of this match describes the match pretty perfectly, really. It was just a disjointed, insane affair. But, man, I thought, honestly, this was the best organized one they've ever done. And I loved it. I have no complaints. I thought it was a lot of fun. There's more story in this match than there's ever been. One thing we did miss is that when Hangman went to hit Swerve, who had the staple gun at one point, and he hit Okada by mistake. They've been teasing Hangman and Okada having a problem, and they made it very clear. Hangman is not a member of the Elite, okay? Nope. He was a hired gun, and he just wants to ruin Swerve, okay? He doesn't care about the Elite. So I think we're building to Hangman and Okada at All In as well. What a show All In is shaping up to be. Jesus Christ.
So exciting.
And it continued to shape up even after Dynamite. We had a match on Dynamite that was Hikaru Shida versus the returning Dr. Britt Baker. You and I last week stated that we thought they were probably going to keep Britt Baker out of the ring until All In. We were wrong, and I think
we were wrong.
This match showed why we were wrong and why it was a good idea. Because Britt looks a little rusty.
She does. Yeah.
But by no means did she look bad. She looked good. She needs some reps, obviously. And you can't find a better opponent for somebody who's a little rusty than Hikaru Shida. Loved the dynamics of this match. I thought it was a really solid match. Neither of their best, but even with each other, but like a very, very good match. Love Shida's vibe right now. She's clearly building towards a full-blown psycho heel turn. She's got the Yakuza gear pretty strong. They have a great match. At one point, Shida is contemplating whether to grab her kendo stick and use it on Britt, they're both baby faces technically right now, but Shida's kind of already turned heel in her mind. She did happen to be the one wrestling Sky Blue when Sky Blue got injured. And afterwards, she cut a promo that was pretty heelish. about, being mad that Sky Blue got hurt because she wanted to fight her, and then challenging Britt to this match. Britt ends up winning with the lockjaw on Sheeta in a clean finish. Whose music should hit, Joshi G?
CEO. So out comes Mercedes Moné. And she doesn't want to wrestle Britt Baker at All In. Anyone but Britt Baker. Her answer is no to wrestling her. Yes. And Baker's just, facing Mercedes at that point. And then somebody mysterious hits her from behind. And who is this person? Camille.
It's former NWA Women's World Champion Camille, who we have speculated about possibly being a heater for Mercedes Moné. Joshi, you called this. We have talked about it in private. Chrissy Chemistry, our friend on Threads, was like, who was saying this?
It's always me, guys.
Yeah, I said, well, at least this one for sure was you, okay?
I'm kidding.
And so, so I said, I know Joshi has said it to me privately. I'm not sure if it was said publicly. And then Chrissy was like, no, you guys had to have talked about it on the podcast. So I think we probably did at one point or another. This has been something that we saw coming as a possibility. Man, Mercedes in a Sean Diesel kind of situation with Camille.
I love it.
Take my money. Take my money.
I don't get people that don't like it. I guess these are just haters saying, oh my God, Camille, she's just Mercedes heater. She deserves better than that. It's like, okay, so it was totally fine when she was Nick Aldis's bodyguard, but she can't be a woman's bodyguard. Like, shut up, guys.
Guys,
honestly,
that's the dumbest shit I could even think of to say.
It's really dumb.
She deserves to be better than Mercedes hater. What kind of stupidity is that? Like, she's in a prime spot immediately upon her introduction with the biggest star in the women's division.
Yeah, that's actually a really great position for her.
That's
to
a
be in right now.
fantastic place to be.
Yes, it is. And
Jesus,
when you look at it, right, because it's like, okay, Mercedes now has her bodyguard. Eventually, Dr. Britt Baker will need someone to back her up. Perfect opportunity to bring back Jamie Hayter. I mean, come on. There are a lot of things that can happen with it. And hello, of course, Jamie's going to back up her best friend. So these are all really, really great things. And you know what? If this leads to Mercedes having her own faction, which she has been teasing, I'm all for it, man.
Absolutely.
I want a women's faction in AEW that works really well for once. We deserve it. And she's a perfect leader. Like, let's freaking do it.
I'm trying to will it into existence right now.
Please do. Please do.
What if Mercedes has Camille?
Mm-hmm.
She's wrestling Britt Baker at All In, as was decreed at San Diego Comic-Con.
Oh, that was good. That was really
super
done.
good. That was super good. It was all over social media. Tony Khan says, you know what? I'm sick of this shit. You two are going to wrestle, and you are going to do it at All In at Wembley. Fantastic setup. We got something we got to discuss here.
Let's go. It's important.
In March, AEW has big business, and it's the reveal that they have, in fact, signed Mercedes Moné. And there is all this hype, all this speculation for months and months and months. We finally know that Mercedes is here, but she can't wrestle. People start picking her apart almost instantly, that her promos aren't good. They don't like her as a babyface. They don't this, they don't that. I think you and I both knew better. As soon as Mercedes could wrestle, it would shut up a lot of people. And it certainly has. Okay. At no other point, despite the very valiant efforts of people like Britt Baker, Mercedes has brought in attention to the AEW women's division in a way that no one ever has before. And we were talking earlier today. Who is the greatest free agent signing in the history of AEW? Now, I think you have to just take Jericho and Moxley and the Young Bucks
Danielson.
and Kenny off the table. Okay,
Okay.
they're not allowed to be included in this discussion, okay? Because they are day one. Like, AEW just doesn't even exist without them. So they're not really a free agent signing. They're like the founders in my mind. Britt Baker, also a founder. Sheeta, really, founder.
Yeah.
She was at Double or Nothing, the very first one. I was there. Yuka Sakazaki was there, you know? So Cody, all those people, they wouldn't be a part of this. But Swerve would. Bryan Danielson would. CM Punk would. Adam Cole would. Keith Lee would. Tony Storm would.
Mm-hmm.
Will Ospreay. Kazuchika Okada. Is Mercedes Moné the most impactful free agent they've ever signed?
Like I was telling you earlier, to me, and this is from my personal standpoint, Mercedes is the most significant signing in AEW of all time. And I have my reasons for that. So I am a huge fan of women's wrestling. And let's be honest, prior to this year, the women's division wasn't the strongest. There were times where it was looking better, but then for whatever reason, they would still get one match. You would see the same faces over and over again. And it was frustrating for me. Like, I remember, I think it was maybe in 2021, maybe. It seemed like it was heading in the right direction. I even remember, like, Ty Mello. She used to be called Ty Conti. So she had a really great match with Sheeta. It looked like she was going to be a big part of the women's division. Things changed in 2022. Penelope Ford, she was getting better. Injuries kept holding her back.
She improved a lot.
She did improve a lot, though. Britt Baker, I mean, she was constantly a focal point, and that's not a bad thing, but you also have to use the other woman. And I remember Lita, so WWE Hall of Famer, she was asked to join AEW, and she said, look, I like Britt Baker a lot and all that, but I don't think it's right that she's the only one being used a lot. Like, even when Sheeta was champion, the longest reigning women's champion, she wasn't used regularly, which was really weird, but Britt was always there. So there wasn't even like a 50-50, like split. It was just Baker's she's the main focus of this division. And when Hayter came in, again, things were looking really good. Like, I remember end of 2022, she had her match against Sheeta, which I really loved. It was definitely structured like an All Japan women's wrestling match. And then 2023 did not look as good. Sadly, Jamie did get injured. They did have plans, but unfortunately, with the women's division, it seemed to me anyway, like AEW never had a plan B. If, like, let's say someone were to get injured, or it was just like, oh crap, like these were our plans and now we don't know what to do. So I felt that last year. And I've been very vocal about this. I always said that the only way this women's division is going to change is if they sign Mercedes. Only way it's going to change. The reason is, first of all, everyone who watches wrestling knows who she is. You can't say, oh, I don't know her. And that was a criticism of AEW's women's division. There isn't a huge star in that division. Can't use that excuse anymore because there she is. And I know how Mercedes is. She is a really strong woman. She wants a lot of money. She wants equality in professional wrestling. And she wants the woman to have a lot more screen time. I knew that would be one of her conditions in her contract. Mm-hmm. The woman needs to be featured on television more regularly. She's a tough cookie. I mean, look, and in terms of like haters, I know part of the reason why some people hate her is because she walked away from WWE. Mm-hmm. She didn't walk away from WWE because she's a bad person. She walked away from WWE because she wanted to do more for the women's tag team division. And she just wasn't taken seriously and was told really nasty things. And as someone that put so many wrestlers over, always worked her ass off, she didn't deserve that. You know, she knows her worth, right? And, you know, seeing her in AEW, like the minute that she showed up, I was overwhelmed with joy because I said, things are going to change. Things are going to change. And you know what, I Blade Daily? I was right. The women are getting more time than ever before.
Let's look at it a little from a different vantage point. Okay. Mm-hmm. Britt Baker got over as a character and became a star because of her character. Okay. There were no other stars per se in the women's division, and that was a serious problem. Really until Toni Storm started really getting over with the Timeless character. Unfortunately, Saraya just didn't have the impact that they were hoping for. And the Outcast, that entire thing just was such a fucking terribly done mess. Okay. So I think the original idea had been for Saraya to be the one to elevate the women's division. But it just didn't happen because I think they put her in a position where she couldn't win. And they put her in a position where too much was expected of her. And it wasn't fair to her, unfortunately. So another year goes by and nothing happens. Not the way that they wanted it to. Because Tony Khan made such a tremendous financial investment in Mercedes Moné, he has to justify it. And so the women's division by proxy is being elevated because he has to justify that massive financial investment that he made in Mercedes Moné. She's making 2 to 3 times at least what most of the women on that roster are making. The only person who's probably anywhere near that is Britt. And I don't know what Britt makes. I have no idea. Maybe she's making 10 times what Britt makes. I don't know.
Right.
So that's another aspect to look at. But since Tony decided to make that investment, the women's division has exploded. Toni Storm has done a ton to revitalize and bring television exposure to the women's division. She's been a fantastic champion. She has been she's doing the best character work of anybody in wrestling right now. Her and Mariah May, I will add, who has been one of the low-key best signings of the year next to Mercedes, Will, and Okada. I would put her right up there with those guys. This is just a brand new time in the women's division in AEW. There's some of the best women's wrestling on the planet is happening in AEW. And I'm so happy to be able to say that now. It's really, really cool.
Online, I see a bunch of people going on about how great the women's division is, how much they love Toni Storm, how much they love Mercedes, how much they love whoever, you know, and it's just so nice to see because it was the weakest part of AEW for a long time. And look, last year, my girl, Jamie Hayter, she was awesome. She got over, she killed it as champion. I mean, back even in like fall 2022, but the injury happened and, you know, that was really unfortunate. But again, that's not an excuse to not work with the other talent that you have. Thank goodness they decided to, you know, create this timeless Toni Storm character. Thank goodness they signed Mariah May back in, I think it was November. Thank goodness they signed Mercedes Moné this year because I personally think that the women are the best part of the show. I really do.
AEW's creative has improved so much since Jamie Hayter got injured that I cannot wait to see what they do with her when she comes back because she has the chops. She will rise to that occasion. You know what I mean? But to see the level of the storytelling increase so much, I got into it with this guy yesterday on Threads, and I don't want to name him or anything. I don't want to shame him either, okay? We had different opinions. We both felt strongly. He said, AEW just hasn't figured out how to find the balance between great matches and good stories. Completely disagree. I don't think this is somebody who has watched the show in years because AEW has found the best balance between story and wrestling that I've ever seen. It's better now. The storytelling is better now than it's ever been. If you think AEW's creative peak was in 2021, you are watching with some weird ass goggles right now because it's better now than it's ever been. I really believe that. And the rise of Mercedes, whose character is so well defined and easy to understand in just, since March. I completely understand who Mercedes Moné is, I completely understand who Timeless Toni Storm is. I completely understand who Mariah May is. And they've let the characters of other wrestlers like Deonna Purrazzo is starting to really emerge as a character. Thunder Rosa is going through a character overhaul that we're starting to see. It's very exciting, not to mention on the male side of things where the characters are really starting to come out in this whole new way. It's very, very exciting. It's certainly arguable who the best free agent signing in AEW history is. Okay, you could make a case for others, but Mercedes is right there. And I would say as far as demonstrable impact, it's hard not to say she's the number one, Speaking of things improving in a very short period of time, Joshi, I know that you haven't had the opportunity yet to watch the G1 Climax, but much as people may not remember, we are not an AEW only podcast, okay? We love New Japan Pro Wrestling, and we have lamented the unfortunate state of New Japan Pro Wrestling, but I have very good news for you, Joshi G. New Japan is back, baby. This G1 is on fire, and I have a very special report. I'm welcoming you to episode 1 of the BD3, my very non-thorough review of the G1 Climax 34. Once upon a time, long before the rise of one AEW, way back then, when we were all just doe-eyed dreamers wishing WWE was watchable, summer was a magical time for pro wrestling. And why was this, you might be asking, in case you didn't pay any fucking attention to what I just said? Well, proverbial you, it's because New Japan Pro Wrestling put on the single greatest tournament in the history of pro wrestling and called it the G1 Climax. For decades, in fact. It's how I became deeply acquainted with a little nobody you might have heard of. His name's Kenny Omega. It's featured winners like Hiroshi Tanahashi, Kota Ibushi, Kazuchika Okada, Hiroki Goto, Tetsuya Naito, Masahiro Chono, Tatsubi Fujinami, Riki Choshu, Kensuke Sasaki, Satoshi Kojima, Toki Makabe, Manabu Nakanishi, Yuji Nagata, and that's just since 1991. New Japan has been running annual singles tournaments with different names every year since 1974. Antonio Inoki, Seiji Sakaguchi, Andre the Giant, and the world's 5th or 6th most terrible person, Hulk Hogan, were all featured winners. Needless to say, the G1 Climax is seen as the preeminent singles tournament in pro wrestling worldwide, and it has been for decades. This year, the G1 returned to its traditional 2-block format instead of that pretty horrible 4-block format of the last few years. And there's no, fucking dweebs like Yujiro Takahashi and Chase Owens, but also no Tanahashi and no Okada. The playing field is fresh, and New Japan itself feels like it's finally rising from the ashes of the pandemic that decimated the roster in 2020. For years, I watched the notable matches in the finals on replay, and then in 2019, my roommate and I endeavored to do the greatest thing we've ever done in our lives. Maybe. We watched the entire G1 live, and my God, it fucking ruled. The legends were true. It was truly the greatest spectacle of pure pro wrestling in the world. This is the moment I was reminded that pro wrestling stories could be told in so many different ways. The G1 never had parking lot attacks or people fighting over who was cuckolding someone else on the roster or general managers making people wrestle the Undertaker playa. It was a round-robin tournament, not single elimination. Everyone lost important matches at some point, and their psychology in each match was drastically affected by their standings. So, when the finals were over and the winner was crowned, you knew you were looking at truly one of the greatest wrestlers in the world, if not the greatest, at that very moment. But I gotta say, pandemic era G1 just wasn't the same. And New Japan finally started to feel the effects of not only the pandemic, but the penalties of relentlessly pushing Tanahashi, Naito, and Okada over the entire roster for far too long. Just to give you some idea of how that went. Okada won the G1 in 2014, 2021, and 2022. Naito won it in 2013, 2017, and 2023. Tanahashi won it in 2015 and 2018. The only other people to even win a G1 between 2013 and 2023 were the aforementioned Kenny Omega in 2016, who became a massive star as a result, and his best friend, Kota Ibushi, who went back-to-back in 2019 and 2020. He went on to become the IWGP World Champion, the very first one, and cemented his legacy as a legend as a result. The power of this tournament to make stars is undeniable. So, from a booking perspective, in my opinion, it's unforgivable with a roster that featured talents like Will Ospreay, Jay White, Sonata, Shingo Takagi, and many others. The New Japan kept going back to the same well of stars over and over again. It diluted my enjoyment of New Japan greatly, and eventually I tuned out. I love Kazuchika Okada. I love Hiroshi Tanahashi. I love Tetsuya Naito. They are legitimately some of my all-time favorite wrestlers. But I didn't need them main eventing Wrestle Kingdom for the championship every single year. For Christ's sake. Thankfully, much like Shinsuke Nakamura's departure in 2016 forced New Japan to push Kenny Omega into a main event spot, the departure of Will Ospreay, Jay White, and Kazuchika Okada over the last year is having a similar effect now. There's a ton of new blood in this tournament this year, some of which I know and some of which I'm just discovering. But it's reinvigorated my love for New Japan, and I'm watching every match of this tournament this year. Now let's get into the blocks and who's in each block. In Block A, we got a bit of a murderer's row here. You have Shota Umino, up-and-comer, the Roughneck, who is working with a bad hip. He's got a hip fracture, and the announcers sell it over and over again that he is not at 100%. You have Tetsuya Naito, who's in a really interesting position. He's the current world champion, which, by the way, no world champion has ever successfully won the G1 while holding the title. But Naito lost his first two matches to Shingo Takagi and to Zack Sabre. It's a very interesting situation. You have Sonata, who I would say is an interesting candidate, except that he got crushed by Jake Lee in less than 5 minutes on the first night. So he's kind of trying to battle back. You have the Great Khan, who I got to be honest, I've just never been a huge fan of this guy's gimmick. However, the guy has shown me a lot as a wrestler, and he's hilarious on social media. He has fought some pretty decent matches, but has yet to score a victory as of this recording. You have Callum Newman from the UK, a guy I had never seen before. Apparently, he was a part of the United Empire, Will Ospreay's faction, before Will left. And he kind of comes across right now, and I don't mean this disrespectfully, it's just true. He kind of comes across a bit like an Ospreay tribute act. He's very talented, and he scored an upset win in his first match over Shota Umino. They were kind of using that to demonstrate that this guy is not 100%, but Callum Newman did defeat him, but has lost every match since then. You have Zack Sabre Jr., who is riding high at the top of the tournament right now. He's got 6 points. He's got 3 victories, all of them pretty decisive. He's beaten Tetsuya Naito, he's beaten the Great Khan, and he's beaten Callum Newman. You've got Gabe Kidd, who I hadn't seen in a really long time, and Gabe was kind of known to be a total wild card when I was on Twitter. Man, he has really, really matured. I did see him in that War Games-esque match that they did that was part of Will Ospreay's exit from New Japan. Gabe, man, he really has something. Some people absolutely hate him. I think this guy is just a shit-talking, gives me kind of like these weird Stone Cold vibes. The crowd is super into this guy, either booing him or cheering him. You know, there's no split. And we're going to talk about Gabe's positioning inside the Bullet Club War Dogs a little later. Then you've got Jake Lee, who is a newcomer to New Japan, but not a newcomer overall. He has wrestled in Noah. He only has 2 points. He got that early win over Sonata where he crushed him in like 5 minutes. Jake's a little taller than your average Asian wrestler. Jake's actually from Korea. He's a Korean wrestler. He's not Japanese, but he's like 6'3", and he does tower over a lot of the people. And they gave him kind of like Undertaker-ish Kane squash style win over Sonata on night one, but he has since lost both his other matches. He is also a part of the Bullet Club War Dogs. And then the other undefeated member of Block A, fucking Evil. God fucking damn it. The man has beat Sonata. He's beaten Gabe Kidd, and he's beaten Jake Lee. I fucking hate Evil. I fucking hate the House of Torture. It's garbage and not in a good way. I will say they have at least made a little bit of progress where they don't cheat in the exact same way in every single match. But man, every time I see Dick Togo on my screen, I get angry, just like furious. I understand what they're doing with Evil. He talks about them having the worst matches of the show, and that they're doing it to kind of give the finger to New Japan, but still, I don't like it. This guy just isn't doing it for me. I loved Evil, absolutely loved Evil and Sonata in LIJ when they were members. My roommate's very fucking favorite guy was Evil. And ever since his turn, even with that run with New Japan title, it was almost too little too late, but with the turn and his antics, it was just not good or well done. Also, I think, they put the title on Sonata years too late. That is all part of the problem that they'd had with keeping Naito and Okada and Tanahashi on top over everybody else. It's kind of the Roman Reigns effect, but in New Japan. Then in Block B, there's a lot of names in here, a lot of studs for the future in this block, and a couple vets that have made things interesting. You've got Bolton Oleg, who is a Kazakh wrestler that I had no knowledge of. I'm not sure what I feel about Bolton Oleg, to be honest. He comes to the ring looking like Davey fucking Crockett with some weird fur hat. But he's a pretty good wrestler from what I've seen so far. It's probably too early to make a call about whether I like him or not. I'm just kind of getting used to his style. He's good in the ring, looks very good. And he's had some tough matches. He lost to Hiroki Goto. He lost to Hinare. But he beat Ren Narita. He was undefeated coming into the tournament, and he's taken his first couple losses since his first match. El Phantasmo coming in, also with a story that I'm not sure I love. El Phantasmo was good friends with G.O.D., the OG G.O.D., Tama and Toa, who are now in WWE as part of the new bloodline. And he was also very tight and a tag team partner in the new G.O.D., basically, with Hikuleo, who is now left as well. And he's doing this kind of emo, sad boy, my friends all eventually hate me gimmick, and I don't even know if I want to be here kind of thing. Not sure how I feel about it, but I am a huge fan of El Phantasmo. He lost his first two matches to Ren Narita and Hinare, but had what I would consider to be a shocking win over Yota Tsuji on the most recent night that I watched. Unbelievable, very good match. But I was shocked that, of all people, Phantasmo was the one to defeat Tsuji. Love the performer, not a fan of his story right now. Let's see if it changes as the tournament goes along. Next, you've got Hiroki Goto, who is a holdover from that same period that kind of shows Nakamura, Naito, Tanahashi, Okada. He's kind of a holdover, although maybe the least accomplished of that group. He has won a G1 in the past. He won actually the very first one he was ever in. But he said, I will not be a stepping stone for the new generation. I like old man grumpy Hiroki Goto. My roommate calls him Sexy Goto, and come on, guy is sexy. He oozes sex appeal, babe. He's one of the guys who beat Bolton Oleg, but he did lose to Yuya Iwamura and Jeff Cobb. All of his matches have been super good. Yota Tsuji. This guy is one of the future massive stars of New Japan. There is no doubting it. I love Yota Tsuji. I'm getting used to his character to a degree still, but man, this guy has it. He's kind of like if you combined like a Hiroki Goto with a Shingo Takagi. He reminds me of both those guys in different ways, but he's very dialed into his gimmick. He has defeated he was defeated by El Phantasmo, and he was also defeated by my man, Konosuke Takeshita. That was a huge win and the best match of night 1 of the G1 and probably my favorite match of the tournament so far. But he did defeat David Finlay. Jeff Cobb is in Block B. He is just a fucking brick shithouse of a human being. But man, he doesn't have bad matches. Jeff Cobb has been great. He's taken some interesting losses. He also lost to my man Konosuke Takeshita. No harm in that. But he also lost to Ren Narita, who, I'm sorry, I do not like Ren Narita. Like, it's not just a House of Torture thing. I do not like this kid. I just don't think he's that great. There's something about him I just do not relate to. But he has beaten Hiroki Goto, which was a very good match. Then you've got the other guy who is sitting at the top of the block right now, Yuya Iwamura. This guy has blown me the fuck away. I'm already into Yota Tsuji. I'm already into Shota Umino. I know those guys are the future, but man, Yuya Iwamura, I had not seen him in a very long time. He is the only undefeated wrestler in this block. He's defeated Hiroki Goto. He has defeated David Finlay, which was a very good match. And he's the only guy who's defeated my boy Konosuke Takeshita in what was definitely the best match of the night that headlined night 4, I believe it was. Wow. And then you've got Hanare, who has beaten Bolton Oleg. He's beaten El Phantasmo. And he took an L to David Finlay, which I was kind of surprised by. Hanare almost kind of reminds me of like PCO in a way, like where he's this just kind of unhinged lunatic monster who is very difficult to beat. He has really run through. Him and Takagi have had a number of matches with each other over the last year. Hanare has come out on top in a lot of those matches, and he recently beat Shingo for the never open weight title, which great. It's a stupid title that I don't give a shit about. I don't even know why the never open weight title exists, if I'm being honest. But Hanare is holding it right now. I have really, really liked watching him in the ring. Then you've got David Finlay. David Finlay is currently the leader of the Bullet Club War Dogs. I got to be honest. One, I'm sick of Gato. I just don't need to see Gato anymore. The Bullet Club War Dogs are fine for what they are. But David Finlay, he is a very good wrestler. He's great in the ring. But I can't say I'm enjoying. I can't say that I see him as any kind of top guy going forward. There's just something about him where he hasn't found it yet. And I hope that they either give him a piece that he's missing. It's definitely not Gato. And I hope that they either figure out how to keep him on top in a way that makes more sense of the Bullet Club War Dogs, or they do the sensible thing and have them turn on him, try him as a face, and have Gabe Kidd lead him. Because honestly, Gabe Kidd's got 10 times more charisma than Dave Finlay. No offense. He's a very good wrestler. David Finlay has lost to Yota Tsuji and Yuya Iwamura, but he did beat Hanare. And then you've got Ren Narita, who, look, this was the kid that they said was, the mini Shibata, because he was trained by Shibata. He obviously emulated Shibata a lot. I don't get it with this guy. And, I don't want to disrespect the guy. He's got 4 points. He's defeated El Phantasmo and Jeff Cobb, which shocked me. But he did take the L to Bolton Oleg. I just don't get it. I don't get it. He took an insane bump. I will give him this. Took a crazy fucking bump to Jeff Cobb in the most recent match I saw. He's got 4 points, though. So, him, Hanare, and Iwamura are on top. The only guy who's matched Narita and Hanare is my boy, Konosuke Takeshita, DDT and AEW's own Konosuke Takeshita. This guy has looked absolutely brilliant every single night that he's been on the show. I love watching Takeshita unleashed in New Japan, working with guys, showing stuff that he doesn't get to show in AEW all the time. I literally could not believe that they put him over Yota Tsuji on the first night. It was an unbelievable match. You have to go watch it. He had another fucking incredible, it was like a short match with Jeff Cobb, but unbelievably good for the length it was. It was fantastic match. And then Takeshita with Yuya Iwamura was a fantastic match. Yuya Iwamura gets the win in a very clever way. I highly recommend you seek out every Takeshita match in this tournament. It has been fantastic. To me, this feels like Block A is going to either go for Shota Umino, Shingo Takagi, or Zack Sabre Jr. That feels like the most convincing winners of Block A. In Block B, I don't know. It's a little bit rougher. Like in Block B, I don't think they're going to go with Takeshita, but they're pushing him hard. This guy is looking good. Now, they could also be doing this thing that they did with Moxley where they bring him in, make him look really tough for a while, and then he starts dropping a couple matches because there's some really big names he has not wrestled. His next match is against Hanare, who has not lost easily. But the other people that I think have a chance here, Yuya Iwamura is getting the biggest push of everyone in this block, in Block B. And I could definitely see him winning the block. He's impressive. This guy is super impressive. But other guy who is not looking so dominant right now, who I think has a chance, is Yota Tsuji. I don't think you can bet against Yota Tsuji. The people that I would love to see win this tournament is Iwamura, Takeshita, or my boy, Shingo Takagi. Honorable mention to ZSJ. Zach deserves it if he does win. I will not complain. But Shingo Takagi feels like the guy who should have won this tournament already by now. That is where the G1 is at right now. The matches that I most highly recommend, Shingo Takagi versus Naito, main event in night one. And that was by far Naito's best match so far. Another match that you have to see, any of the Takeshita matches, but Takeshita versus Yota Tsuji was an all-time classic. Takeshita versus Yuya Iwamura was also a classic. And Takeshita versus Jeff Cobb, if you just want a quick beat the shit out of him and move fucking match, that's a great one. I also really like Yota Tsuji versus El Phantasmo. It kind of seems like a nothing match until you know what the finish is. And then I rewatched it after I saw the match, and it's much more compelling once you understand what the finish is. But those are my highlights so far. What are your highlights? I want to hear about them. Email them to me. sitdownshutupmarkout@gmail.com, or you can hit me up on socials or whatever. But this has been episode 1 of the BD3, my very non-thorough review of the G1 Climax 34. I'm Blade Daly, and back to you, Joshi G, and some sexy ass beat. I think the message I got for you is, Joshi, we had talked previously about Konosuke Takeshita, how we wanted more for him, and how we wanted more for him in AEW. And while we may not be getting quite that just yet, we are seeing the fucking beast in this man being unleashed on New Japan Pro Wrestling right now. And I am so fucking stoked to see the rest of him in this tournament. I hope he places very high, whether he wins it or not. And then I hope he comes back to AEW with a goddamn vengeance. I did see recently somebody had said Andrew Zarian, somebody who I do actually have a lot of confidence in the wrestling news space, said that Tony Khan views the future aces of AEW as Swerve Strickland, Will Ospreay, Kazuchika Okada, Konosuke Takeshita. That those are the guys that he sees as his future, and Hangman Page, that he sees as his, those will be the mainstays of the world title scene going forward. And let's hope that's true, because Takeshita is the man, and he's proven it. Watch the match with him and Yota Tsuji. Watch the match with him and Iwamura. Watch the match with him and Jeff Cobb. All of them are great for entirely different reasons. And I love that about the G1. And just as importantly, go Shingo. Go Shingo Takagi.
Go
Win
Shingo.
this fucking tournament, man. You deserve it, bro. It's an embarrassment that Shingo Takagi hasn't won a G1 yet. Jesus Christ. Get your shit together, New Japan.
Seriously. He's a dragon. So what? It's a good thing.
He's a motherfucking rampage dragon.
They hate freaking dragons. Yeah.
God damn it. And if you know what? And if you can't find something for this motherfucker to do that's important, send him over to AEW for 6 months. Sons of bitches.
I agree. I'm tired of this bullshit.
Yeah, me too. All right. Well, it's been a really solid episode, Joshi G. Make sure you leave a review for us in the iTunes store or on Spotify or wherever you can review podcasts. We want to make this community as big as possible. Believe me, this ain't a money thing because we ain't making shit. But that's not why we do this anyway. It's all for the love of the game. It's to grow this community. Let's help more people find out about what we're doing here. We love you guys. To the Shota Cult, to everybody listening to this podcast right now, we're wishing you the very best. I'm Blade Daly.
I'm Joshi G. And also Shota Umino's biggest fan here. Ha 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 ha.
Shota Umino forever. Pro wrestling.